All right, so do I need to stay in here to record it?
Theoretically, no.
The television will pick up everything.
Yeah, the television will pick up everything. You shouldn't have to be in here as long as you don't get out of the meeting.
I will leave the meeting on. It is recording now. We will upload it to the meeting.
Thank you all for your patience.
Yes, thank you very much for your patience.
Okay, are we good to start?
Yes.
Okay. We'll welcome everyone. We'll start with a roll call. Casey.
Here.
Stephanie.
Here.
Joel.
I am here.
And I'm Patricia, and I'm here. We're all here, and I know we still have one vacancy. Can I get an approval of the agenda for today?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, we have an approval of agenda. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Not yet. Should we double check?
Looking like we do not. The next item is a committee vote for chair position, which is part of our bylaws to do every 2 years. I believe it's been 2 years, if not close enough, right? I've been the chair for 2 years. I'm fine to continue unless there is someone who would like to step in which case I'm more than happy to turn it over as well.
Well, I appreciate your transparency and invitation. I think you've been doing an excellent job keeping us focused and organized. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve you as chair for the next 2 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. I'm just kidding.
Noted in the minutes.
Somebody would like to take over as chair?
No,
Happy to.
That's what happens when you vote.
Okay, as I said, I'm happy to continue as chair. Next on the agenda is the bond project updates. I don't know who's up for that. Probably someone online.
Matt Cable, do you want to give some updates on affordable housing?
I sure can. I have a couple of slides that are very similar to the ones that I presented back to you. I think that was end of July. So hold on just a second. I'll share my screen. It will not take too long. So when I last spoke to you, presented information about the fund distribution. This is unchanged, so we haven't allocated any additional bond funds to any projects, and we haven't moved any projects with an allocation to contract since our last update to this group. So all of those numbers have remained the same, but just put them in here for reference. We have had additional expenditures occur. So this is the selection of the 3 projects that are currently contracted. So we have actually provided additional distributions of bond funds to the Maribel project since our last update to the group. And what I'll say about that as a reminder is these funds are only reimbursed upon proven expenditures that are certified by an engineer with supporting financial documentation showing the expenses occurred. So these are all reimbursement-based expenses that you'll see. And then these 3 projects have an allocation existing for them from the bond funds, but they have not yet closed. All are actively working towards closing the project. It is possible that they will close before December. We are, however, going to extend their allocation window. So that initially expired or would have expired June 30 of 2025. We gave them additional 6 months to work towards closing, and then we're going to provide another 6-month extension. So we do those iteratively to make sure they're making progress and that they are actively working towards closing. But it's likely, I expect, 1 if not 2 will actually close in December, and then the others will follow shortly behind in the early and late winter, early spring.
Matt, sorry to interrupt, just curious, have any of the developers indicated why they need the allocation window extended, or what has been the reason for the delays? Any like common theme?
Um, it's always the same. I'm going to say this isn't specific because they have bond funding or any other issue. Um, most of our developers are diligently working to close their projects. These are very complex financial deals. And so as they put together their capital stack, and and we'll just say it because it's true in all construction project costs increase. So anytime you have an adjustment to the project cost, you're going back to your primary lender and you're getting a new approval. And so it's an iterative process whereby as the project progresses, if things don't close in like a 60 or 90-day window for any number of reasons, then you restart the next 60 or 90-day window to make sure your financing is still solid, to adjust, any kind of, let's say your general contractor, you had a guaranteed pricing for this many days. Well, now because one of your lenders couldn't close on your loan, you had to go back to your general contractor and get a new quote for the next 90, whatever period, right? So those are the kind of issues that they face. And it's very iterative and it happens a lot as you approach closing. And I'll say, why we expect people to close in December, sometimes it's just a few weeks that are added as different lenders have different last minute things that they're going to expect from the closing. So nothing atypical, nothing from our perspective because it's bond funding or county funding at all. It's typically the other lenders, it's typically cost adjustments as they get closer and closer to the actual closing date.
Gotcha. So it's really hinging on the financial complexity of these deals.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks, Matt.
Uh-huh. So that was really the only updates that I have. I'm happy to share the slides with you so that you can compare them to last time. But like I said, not much has changed with the exception that we have dispersed some additional bond funds as a reimbursement base for those open contracts at this point.
Okay, any other questions for Matt? Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel, do you have any insights into the open space bonds? If not, I can pull up a budget to actual.
Please, happy to speak to it. Please forgive me being in a hoodie, working from home today. I didn't realize that I would be on your agenda. However, this is timely because the Passive Recreation Lands Subcommittee, which is one of the avenues through which open space bonds can be recommended, is going to the Board of Commissioners next Tuesday, the 18th, to bring forward a set of recommendations. I can quickly give you a preview of some of the high points from their presentation. At this time, it's still sitting at 17.5 million. However, you'll recall recommendations can get there through the Land Conservation Advisory Board for conservation easements, as well as through this Passive Recreation Lands Subcommittee, which had a process going and had planned to bring recommendations to the board a year ago. It was paused as a result of Helene, so they relaunched that process and took a new look at the 11 projects that had originally requested funding, communicated with each of those applicants to find out, is the project still viable? Have there been any changes to scope or budget as a result of a year's time passing or as a result of impacts of Tropical Storm Helene? Ultimately, they are recommending 7 projects, the ones listed on top in green, which add up to 4.37 million. So they'll be recommending those, and on Tuesday, the board will take action to approve up to those 7 projects and up to that, I guess the 4.3 million. So with what we know is in the queue with conservation easements, and if all 4.3 million went forward, what would be left on the table for future allocations out of that total 30 million would be this figure here of roughly 5.6 million. They did also make a recommendation for the Board of Commissioners to take into consideration about holding on to those funds for future funding cycle or cycles, to potentially provide funding for a few projects that weren't ready for a recommendation now because they still need some planning and design, funding for other community-led projects that maybe didn't apply last time but might be ready next time, as well as potential funding for county-led projects. As you may know, we are doing a Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and we do have a role in the post-disaster program called Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, or HMGP. That's the one that property acquisitions that property owners can apply to have their flood prone properties to be bought out. And so the county would be the ultimate owner of properties that come through that. And it may require some funding on the other side of those acquisitions to put them into programming for open space. So that is what's going to the board next Tuesday. And I don't have the details of the timing of those roughly $2.5 million of conservation easements that are also going. It's spread out between November and February. Any questions?
Yeah, this isn't directly related to the bonds, but you mentioned the hazard mitigation grant program potential projects. Do you know where those are on the timeline? Because I know the HMGP program can be 2 to 3 years. So do you have any status or progress updates on that? Or has the government shutdown really kind of put a damper on any of those progress updates?
I don't have details to provide, and I don't know that the shutdown is necessarily a driving factor. We are a sub-applicant with the state of North Carolina, and so the state has been taking all of the property owner applications. I actually have a quick, if I could put my fingers on that. Yeah. We were preparing some information on this recently, so I can reference. There have been 429 applications total into that grant program, 277 of which are seeking their property to be acquired. There are other things the program can do, like elevate a structure, for example. We've had, of those 277, I'll let your financial planning and analysis person add these numbers up. Oh, there it is. It says it in the notes. 206 of them so far have made it to us in batches to sign off on. So we have now signed and sent back to the state the first 3 batches of properties. You can see the first couple were small, couple dozen. And then we just had a big 150 plus that we signed off and returned just this month. So I don't have timeline information to give you. Even when we make slides that say timeline on them, it's really just a list of process steps.
Yeah.
We know it's a long-term program. Perhaps that was more information that you wanted, but hopefully that's helpful.
That was really helpful, and I think it's wise to set aside that 5.5 million for potential county-led projects, given especially that there might be some opportunities on the horizon with this HMGP program. So certainly have, not that you need my support, but I just think it's wise as far as set aside. So
yeah, thanks for that. And we do have some precedent for being able to do a call for projects that includes both county projects and community projects. We did that when Buncombe County received the $51 million through state and local fiscal recovery funds through ARPA. And so we would still want to use an evaluation process and all of that, should we be funding county-led projects, to make sure they're going to the projects that are going to contribute most closely to the goals of the open space bond.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed that HMPG moves as swiftly as it can so that you can get some answers and then potentially identify some projects. So thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
All right, I don't think I have any
Patricia, any other questions for me?
questions? Nope, I think we're all good. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Yeah, thanks.
Next on the agenda is finance updates. What do you have?
So, working through the audit, still happening. Not a lot to update there. We'll update you all at the next meeting on how the audit went. We are currently, so my team's looking at the list of projects to which we want to include in the next debt deal, and that includes everything beyond this GO bond. But part of that process is us looking at both tranches, both the affordable housing and open space, to determine which projects have made enough activity or will have enough activity in a timeline to where it makes sense for us to issue debt and not sit on the money for too long. So that is happening. I'll hopefully have a better update on that process. If we meet again in March, we will have conversation. We will have much more to talk about. Otherwise, unless you guys have questions, there's no real substantive update from finance.
Would you say you were likely to have your audit on time?
Yes.
December 31st?
Well, we're going to try. Yeah. Barring, it's always external factors that seem to come into play. You know, one year it was a storm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think everyone in Western North Carolina was late last year.
Yeah. I think we're going to be within a reasonable time frame.
But
So,
they did extend the deadline, so.
yeah, I think we're going to be fine.
Okay.
And the annual audit's required as part of, okay.
Yeah, it's a countywide. Good news is this lives in its own fund. All the activity that happens with these GO bonds, so they get audited through that annual process.
Great.
I'm assuming nothing has popped up at this point. Awesome.
There's not really, you know, there's not a lot of activity so far. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've only issued the one debt tranche of $15 million out of 70, right? So we've got till 29 to issue the debt. There will be updates one day.
It's gonna be all at
Yeah.
once.
We look
We're
forward
gonna
to
come around
those.
together and be like, we spent $60 million
Yeah.
in the last 3 months.
Woohoo.
I'm glad that they were both here to give you kind of more qualitative updates on the project. Makes a little bit more sense than me just saying, we've spent X amount of dollars, right? So that it's good that they're here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions, anything in general, comments, anything I want to bring up?
I think I had all the questions, so I'm out.
That's why you got the mic right by you.
Exactly.
All right, our next meeting is March 25th at 3:30 in whatever room you'll assign us at the time, and also online. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor of adjourning?
I am in
Anyone
favor.
want to stay? No. Okay, we're officially adjourned.
It is a
Thanks,
nice
y'all.
room though.
Here.
All right, that was quick and easy.
Thank you.